Some people think eating animals is wrong, or maybe not wrong, but just bad for you or the environment. Others take it a step further and put their foot down against using anything from an animal. Some won't even eat plants unless they give up their crop willingly, and it's becoming more common for people who don't want to eat plants at all. They opt for a more bacteria-based solution. It's all about where you draw the line. Everyone has one, some a little further back than others. Breatharians, on the other hand, don't want to eat anything at all. Well, except for maybe light.
Listening to the Mind the Gap audio podcast, bridging the gap between your minds and everything else. I'm Keegan Gwydlin.
And I'm Mackie Drew.
And our show today is called Level Infinity Vegan. And this is our show about breatharianism.
Breatharianism's a diet choice, kind of. It's also kind of a religion. So the basic idea here is the breatharians think that they can sustain their physical bodies with just light. Or maybe water as well. And sometimes the light refers to like literally standing out in the sun and photosynthesizing. And sometimes it refers to like prana, which is like a Hindu like spiritual life force. Like you basically like meditate on it and you're sustained. Yeah, so that's it could be either. There's not really like a unified body of breatharians, right? It's very fragmented in belief. There's only about 5,000 breatharians worldwide as far as we can tell. And there's not really a good unified story of how it was created either. As best as I can tell, it's like a Hindu-Indian thing. Like it's very related to that, but almost certainly not created by an Indian person. Just, you know, people on the outside being like, hey, look at that belief. Yeah. I bet I could...
Like
use
new
that.
Age stuff.
Exactly. Very new age. I found the main leader. There are a couple candidates for the main leader. But this is the earliest back and the most renowned. So I thought I'd talk about Wylie Brooks. He's the founder of the Breatharian Institute of America. And, he is going around teaching people how to become breatharians, you know, how to not have to eat food anymore. And he himself claims to not have actually found that answer yet. He still has to occasionally eat, you know? That's what he claims.
At least he's honest.
Fair enough. Yeah, he has to occasionally eat 3 times daily. But he says he has basically 4 main deterrents which prevent him from living without food, which is people pollution, food pollution, air pollution, and electro pollution. He's been in the center of a lot of controversy. He's still got a lot of followers. He's got, even today. And this was, like, he was big and popular in the 80s. Like, this is when he was really? Active. Yeah. So
this is an older thing. I thought this was fairly recent.
Well, you know, it's a slow climb to, because, you know, when your supporters keep dying, In 1983, he was a couple of years into the whole breatharian thing, and he was the leader, so he was, you know, being closely monitored, essentially. And he was actually found leaving a Santa Cruz 7-Eleven with a Slurpee, a hot dog, and Twinkies. Now, initially, he didn't really respond to this. He didn't really, like, say anything to the public about this. So people really just forgot about it. It was a matter of, you know, oh, well, we're still his supporters, blah, blah, blah. You know, maybe they excused it as he was like, he fell off the wagon, so to speak.
Yeah.
But, in 2003, he actually told Colors magazine, which is apparently a magazine, that he periodically breaks his fasting with a cheeseburger and cola. And he explained that when he's surrounded by, junk culture and junk food, consuming these things adds balance.
Well, how freaking interesting.
It only took him 20 years to come up with that excuse. So he charges people to be taught breatharianism. And the basic idea is you have to say a spell to make it work. So the idea is you have to say magic 5th dimensional words And
What is a fifth dimensional word?
I couldn't quite find a great explanation. He refers to fifth dimensionalness a lot, like this is fifth dimensional, that's fifth dimensional, etc. And he doesn't really ever explain it.
Huh.
These are the fifth dimensional words. I was able to find them. I'm going to try to pronounce them, but that's what you pay him for. That's what you're supposed to pay him for, the proper pronunciation. So if I'm getting this wrong, it's because I'm not pronouncing them correctly. Because I'm not going to get magic powers unless I do. So here are the words. Jat Niranjan, Omkar, Raranarkar, Sohang, Satnam. So those are
I've heard of that one before.
These
I feel
are actually,
like I've heard of Satnam.
These are yoga-based words, apparently.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where he took those from. But
well, why don't you just take a yoga class then? I bet it's cheaper than his thing.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. He charges sometimes a pretty penny. In the question and answer section of his website currently, Brooks explains that the double quarter pounder with cheese meal at McDonald's possesses a special bass frequency, and he recommends it for beginning breatharians. He also says that Diet Coke is liquid light. So it's liquid light force. Like, it sounds like a joke, right? I'm not making this up. You can check. It's hilarious.
What's a bass frequency?
Well, a lot of New Age stuff refers to, frequencies and how to waves and all that jazz. They don't know what it means. It just sounds legit. So I think that's where it's coming from.
Hang on, Mackie. I have to go get a can of liquid light. I'm getting kind of thirsty.
But yeah, he claims because like how is a double quarter pounder with cheese and meal a bass frequency thing? So he explains that cows are fifth dimensional or higher beings that help mankind achieve fifth dimensional status by converting 3-dimensional food to 5-dimensional food, which is beef. So that's
wouldn't any burger work?
Yeah, exactly. But
apparently
the quarter pounder with cheese is the base frequency. It sounds like I had a dream and I made this. This is like what he's
I know, it does sound like a crazy dream.
He has several different prices for his clients, depending on how rich they are. And he has charged anywhere between $100,000 to $1 billion for
has someone actually paid $1 billion?
I was looking into this because I saw this claim and I was not able to find any information. He keeps his client's identity secret, so you can't know.
Wow.
So maybe is the real thing here. I couldn't tell you, but maybe, and that's bad enough in my opinion. So basically, the clients are paying for access to Brooks in a certain way. Basically, he says if you are having trouble with pronouncing these words, you should call him on his fifth dimensional phone, and he will give you the correct pronunciation. And if the line is busy, they are asked to meditate and then call back in a few moments.
I wonder which cell phone carrier provides fifth dimensional cell phone.
Yeah, I'd like to get some. I'd like to at least ask the helpline what a fifth dimension is. But yeah, so basically, I don't think I have to say this, but scientific consensus finds that this diet is extremely dangerous and it will lead to death. So, yeah.
And that leads nicely into what I want to talk about, which is what happens when you don't eat. And essentially, you die.
Eventually.
Yeah. Someone dies of starvation every 3.6 seconds. And undernourishment affects 925 million people per year. You have to eat. People are literally dying.
I hate how we have to say this.
I'll talk a little bit about the biochemistry and the biology of it. So first, when you go into starvation, you use up any stored carbohydrates. So if you you may have heard of carb loading, that a lot of people do, like before, say, a marathon race. They'll eat a whole bunch of, they'll eat like a big plate of pasta. Mm-hmm. And what that does is some of the carbohydrate you get from the pasta is used immediately to provide energy, and anything that you don't use immediately is stored in your liver in a form called glycogen. And So that's the purpose, is once you run out of blood sugar, basically, this glycogen in your liver is broken down.
Like short-term storage, rather.
Yes, exactly. So first you use up your glycogen that you've stored. After that, you use up your other energy stores like fat. You also lose muscle tissue. And this is when it gets, scary, because glycogen and fat are meant largely for energy storage. Fat has other uses, but it's used as energy storage very efficiently. Then you're breaking down muscle tissue, and that should be an indication that you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because you need, your muscles are absolutely imperative to live. Your heart is a muscle. If you're going to start breaking down your muscle tissues,
you're going to start breaking down your heart.
Yeah. And this is literally your body going well, we don't have any other choice. There's nothing left to eat.
Yeah, better
except
eat
ourselves.
It's better to eat yourself than die now. You might get food later, right?
Exactly. And so this process of breaking down your body to provide energy for, your brain and other important vital functions is called catabolysis. Also, when you don't eat, it's not just energy. You're also losing vitamins. And vitamins are used for your body in metabolic reactions that, are essential to enzyme function. And that's what every cell needs. Every cell needs these vitamins. And so lack of vitamin intake causes stuff like diarrhea, rashes, edema, and heart failure.
Well, yeah. That's something serious, and you should definitely worry about that.
Yeah.
It's not hard to get vitamins either. You have
you just need to eat. Basically.
You have a normal diet, and you get most of the vitamins you need.
Yeah. As you progress through starvation, your stomach atrophies. It gets smaller. It shrinks. And that actually weakens the perception of hunger, since hunger is based on stretch receptors in your stomach. So if your stomach feels full, it's stretched out, and that's what gives you that feeling of fullness. And then if there's a lot of room in your stomach, then you feel hungry. But if your stomach shrinks, there's not a lot of room, so it's, it doesn't feel hungry, but there's actually nothing in your stomach, right?
Yeah.
And beyond that, once you start really starving yourself, you get lethargic and weak, and in fact you get too weak to actually sense that you're thirsty, and therefore you become severely dehydrated. So this is not just a, issue with eating food. This causes you to stop drinking water as well, which is very, very deadly.
Yeah, you can die much quicker not drinking water than you can eating food.
Exactly. So that is essentially what happens when you don't eat. And the punchline is always that you die.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a woman who's trying this. She's trying to prove breatharianism is a thing. And basically she was frustrated with how people were trying to prove it in the past, and then, people are sneak off and have food, and people have been found out multiple times cheating, so she decided that she was going to go max out her credit cards and put up 8 security cameras around her house, constantly monitor her. She started this in April, and even after doctors warned her that it was not possible for humans to photosynthesize, she started off on a 6-month journey of not eating. That was her attempt, right? On April 30th, 2013, she stopped eating solid food, and she started on a 3-day juice cleanse, followed by colonics, which is basically you get an enema, essentially. It's a really seriously, it's a bit of woo, it's not legitimate. It's supposed to improve all these things. It doesn't. But yeah, she didn't make it. After 47 days on June 18th, 2013, she stopped. And she gave a couple reasons why she stopped, even though she was really trying to prove this, and she was, very gung-ho about this in the beginning. Mm-hmm. First off, apparently she ran out of money.
What was she doing?
What was she doing? She was not eating, and the idea was when she maxed out her credit cards, she got into a bit of debt.
But what does she need money for?
Paying off her credit card debt.
Oh. Right.
So she'd hoped she'd get some publicity and that she would bring in donations, but it ended up only being about $425 in donations. So it really didn't work as well as she wanted to.
Yeah.
But she said mainly it was not because she couldn't do it, or it wasn't because she ran out of money, but it was because she thought that people would try to copy her in an unsafe way. And
roll.
Yeah. So here's a quote. There are a lot of people who are genuinely concerned for safety and genuinely don't think it's possible and believe it to be dangerous. Now that I see that all that feedback, I'm really seeing that it is totally dangerous, which is good to say, but she still runs a website called Living on Light. She has an active YouTube and Facebook page, and she has books about it. So I don't buy her explanation, but I was kind of excited at the time. I thought, oh well, finally we'll get some good evidence that it's not possible.
So, like you were saying, a lot of this is based on the idea that you can live off of light energy. So I thought I'd talk about how organisms actually live off light energy. And this is a process called photosynthesis. And I'd just like to talk about what you need to photosynthesize and how it works. So basically, plants and some other organisms, like there are some photosynthetic bacteria and stuff like that.
And archaea.
Yeah. They use photosynthesis to convert light energy into chemical energy. And this is a really essential process because without it, we would not have a way of harnessing solar energy to provide energy for, all of the other organisms.
Yeah, we all eat light. We just don't eat it directly. A plant has to process it first, and then we get to it.
So essentially, photosynthesis builds sugars from carbon dioxide, water, and light. And this requires very specialized cellular machinery. So light energy is absorbed by these proteins that contain special pigments called chlorophyll, which you've probably heard of. It's a green pigment. And that's why almost all photosynthetic organisms are green in color.
Yeah, or a shade of green. Everybody's heard of this. They all had songs when they were in fourth grade.
So the energy from the sun is used to strip electrons from water, which produces oxygen. And it uses these stripped electrons to produce what's called ATP, and that's a chemical energy form. So it's the interaction of the chlorophyll pigment with the light energy that actually helps you produce the you're basically moving electrons around, similar to, I guess, electricity. And you're putting them in a form that you can transport around in a more physical sense.
Yeah, it's like storing something in a chemical version, like using electricity and putting that electricity in a battery or
exactly,
or into a fossil fuel.
Right. So. And so ATP, once you've created that, you can use it to make sugars and all sorts of stuff. You can power non-photosynthetic cells, which is how the plant feeds the cells of the root. It exports some of the photosynthetic sugar from the photosynthetic cells down to the roots, which are underground, so they can't photosynthesize. The bottom line, however, is if you don't have chlorophyll, you can't harness this light energy. And humans don't have chlorophyll. That's not the evolutionary path that led to us.
QED.
Yeah.
And, I think this is a good opportunity to mention that we've never found any kind of chemical that can harness spiritual light either.
Of course.
So there would have to be a transition period where you actually are sustaining yourself in a physical way after that. So you'd have to have an input and then chemical energy coming out of nothing or seeming to come out of nothing. And that doesn't happen. So, all right. Well, I'm going to talk about some other things, some alternative diets. In the intro, which you haven't heard, but the audience has, I talk about, different choices and where you draw the line on where you want to eat. And you can have multiple reasons for this. You can have you can feel like you have ethical superiority, like, vegetarians, vegans, etc. It could be religious, like kosher or halal, could be health reasons or environmental, people who have environmental concerns, for instance, about, the sustainability about eating meat or certain types of foods. I don't think it's very good to eat fish because the oceans are not doing so well. I mean, I don't like fish, so it's not a big issue for me. But, you can run into the similar scenarios for multiple reasons. But I wanted to talk about a few different diets I came across. Georgia Reedman claims to have eaten only ramen for the past 13 years. So she's 18 years old now. So since she was 5, and she's 5'3", 98 pounds, and
Jeez, that's light.
and according to her doctors, she is severely malnourished, and she has the health of an 80-year-old. So don't eat ramen only. I mean,
Yeah.
ramen's a great once in a while, but make sure to stay off of that. That's more of a pickiness thing. Her parents say that she wouldn't eat anything else.
Yeah, I've heard of similar things where like a girl only eats McDonald's chicken nuggets or something like that.
Yeah, which is still better than ramen.
That's true, actually.
Because you got breaded, it's more than just.
Yeah, the rare case where McDonald's is the healthier alternative.
So yeah, there's also something, that's sort of starting up, and it was hard to find any information on these, but they call themselves bacteriophages, which is clever, because that's the name of viruses that generally, like, use, bacteria, or consume them to make more viruses. But they basically, they eat biofilms and bacteria. They just eat bacteria.
Can you cover what a biofilm is?
Biofilm is a combination of...
It's stuff they secrete. So a lot of bacteria will secrete stuff like cellulose, and they basically, it forms, like you'd think, a film, and they basically live on this like extracellular matrix.
The thing, what was it? The plaque on your teeth. That's biofilm. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
So, as far as I can tell, it's a small forum, basically. A clutch of less than 30 people so far. It's just cropped up in the last year. And, they seem to be working at the details still. So they eat plants sometimes, but this is an ethical thing. They don't think eating plants is right, which is, I think, just about as warranted as any other ethical claim,
Well, I mean, it depends. If your claim is based on like suffering, I'm not sure plants can suffer.
I don't think plants can suffer any more or less than insects, for instance.
That's fair.
But it really depends exactly what you count as suffering. So it could go either way on that one. But something interesting, something to watch, something I'm curious about. I hope they figure it out. That'd be cool to know. But good luck and don't die.
Yeah.
But there's the cotton ball diet, and basically you eat cotton balls dipped in gelatin, and that's supposed to cut down on the calories you eat. So it's more of like a health related thing.
I wonder if
To fill you up, basically.
Yeah, but I wonder if cotton balls are safe.
Yeah, they are. No doubt. There's no like serious risk to this. You do digest cotton. It's just not very nutritious.
Right.
As long as you're eating other stuff, you should be fine. The blood type diet, which I'd never heard of before this. The idea is, like, if you're a type A, this is a real thing from the blood type diet. You should cut out meat. If you have an O type blood, then you should cut out grains, for instance. And it carries on like that. Basically, it's a claim of knowledge about physiology that is not warranted. Somehow these speak to what you should eat and not, and it's not like it's based on anything, but they think it is. You know what I mean? It's like the pH balance diet.
Right.
Yeah, not really legit.
Hey.
And this isn't a fun one. The Hallelujah diet, a religious one. Basically, it says you can only eat foods specifically mentioned in Genesis 1 verse 29. And I've got the quote here. And God said, Behold, I have given you herb-bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which the fruit is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. So basically, I think it's more of a more specific veganism. So
it's like trees that have fruits with seeds in them.
Yeah, there are different interpretations, So you can find those out, but it's still interesting that people would go there. Anyway, that's all I got for diets.
All right. I would like to talk about some of the claims of extended fasting. So I don't know if we mentioned, but the Breatharianism and a lot of these diets fall under the category of Ainedia, which is, I believe, a Hindu term. And it refers to fasting, basically, and often for religious purposes. So there's a lot of Ainedia stuff throughout. Christian saints have often had claims of Ainedia. A lot of Hindus do this sort of thing. So there's a lot of claims, and I'm just going to talk about a few of the more interesting ones. For instance, in the late 19th century, there was a series of pre-adolescent girls who apparently they claimed to be able to survive indefinitely without food or other nourishment, and they refused food, but also drew attention to their fasting. Most claimed that their power to abstain stemmed from their religious piety. So one of the girls was named Sarah Jacob, and she was a Welsh fasting girl. These girls were called the Fasting Girls.
The fasting?
The Fasting Girls.
I thought you said fasting. Sorry.
No. So she was a Welsh fasting girl, and she claimed to have eaten nothing past the age of 10. And her local vicar, at first was skeptical of this, but when he heard of her religious piety and all this, he started endorsing her. And once she got endorsed by the local vicar, she started receiving, publicity, gifts, donations from her community, all this stuff.
So she was given fruit baskets and stuff.
Of course, local doctors were skeptical and proposed that she be monitored in the hospital by nurses. And after 2 weeks of being under, this nurse watch, she started showing signs of starvation for the first time. Interesting. The vicar then attempted to convince her parents to send away the nurses and sneak food in for her.
Ooh.
But they refused, and a few days later, she died of starvation.
Oh, that's a sad story. Why'd you tell me that?
It was later discovered that she had been consuming small amounts of food secretly, which is why she was able to survive for so long.
Certainly, that makes sense.
And her parents were convicted of manslaughter, and they were sentenced to hard labor.
Hard labor, then?
Yeah.
What year was this?
This was in the early 19th century.
Okay. So, all right. That makes a
late
little
19th
more sense
century, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Every other fasting girl, they all have similar stories, but they were either discovered to be a fraud or they failed to undergo proper tests. So, big surprise, none of these claims were ever vetted.
Fair enough.
A more interesting and scientific instance, also more recent, comes from a paper published in the University of Dundee, which is an Australian university.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Okay.
Their postgraduate medical journal. In 1973, this paper was published, and it described a 27-year-old male who fasted for 382 days straight, over a year. The key is he weighed 456 pounds on admission.
I've heard of this. Yeah. And he was just given vitamins and stuff, right?
Yep. Vitamin supplements and non-caloric fluids.
Okay.
A couple of interesting facts. Apparently fetal evacuation.
Fetal? What?
Fecal evacuation, sorry, was very infrequent.
Well, I should hope fetal evacuation was infrequent. All right.
So he only used the washroom, he used it as little as once every 37 to 48 days.
Well, that makes sense. That answers a lifelong question for me. If you stopped eating and just took in what you needed, would you stop evacuating your fetal, your fetuses?
Your fetuses.
I guess
your unborn embryos. Yes, of course. So that's one thing. The man also lost 276 pounds, which brought his weight down to a more comfortable 180 pounds. And no ill effects were reported.
That's astounding. How did you... I thought there was a dangers to quick weight loss.
Well, it wasn't super quick, right? It took him over a year.
It's amazing that he only lost 276 pounds. I know it's a lot. It's more than half his weight, but it's crazy.
I know. And they monitored he was at first, for the first few months, he was an inpatient. So he was there the whole time and doctors were monitoring him. But he was doing fine. And so he wanted to just continue. And so they monitored him on an outpatient basis. They took, blood tests and all this stuff, all sorts of analyses. It's a fairly interesting paper and it's easy to find. So, feel free to look it up if you're interested.
I need to read that. You got to send that to me.
Yeah.
All right.
One last thing I want to talk about is something that I discovered not half an hour before we were scheduled to record this episode. And I came across this practice, which is very much related to Breatharianism, and it's called sun gazing. And this is the practice of staring at the sun to get nourishment, both physical and spiritual, as you were talking about.
Staring at the sun?
Staring at it.
Obviously through some sort of protective measures, right?
Oh, absolutely. Nope. Just staring at the sun.
That's so dangerous.
Proponents claim that sun gazing gives them increased energy levels and decreased appetite. In fact, I heard a testimony from one of the guys who practices sun gazing, and he says that he was strengthened in a muscular sense. Like he was, after sun gazing for a while, able to lift vast amounts of weight. So it's like bordering on them claiming to have superpowers thanks to sun gazing.
It's not bordering, it's there. It's right there.
So, of course, there's no evidence that sun gazing actually provides nourishment of any kind. And this is also a little bit more dangerous than standard Breatharianism because they're staring at the sun, which causes blindness and severe eye damage, particularly a condition called solar retinopathy, which is damage to the retina as a result of solar radiation.
Yeah.
So,
don't do that.
Don't stare at the sun.
In fact, don't do anything we mentioned in this episode, except for eat.
Yeah.
All right.
If there's one take-home message.
Eat. Eat properly.
Yes.
All right. Cool.
All right,
Let's continue with that then. I guess to the game section?
Yes.
All right, welcome to the game section. So, Keegan, have you ever tried an alternative diet?
I can't say that I really have.
Not even for curiosity's sake?
No, but interesting that you mentioned that. One of my friends from back home, he became a vegetarian just for the hell of it, just to like see if he could do it and what it was like. Mm-hmm. And he kept it up for like 6 months, something.
Wow.
More. And apparently the only reason he stopped is because he got really drunk one time and wanted hot dogs. So he had a bunch of hot dogs, and that was the end of his vegetarian stint.
I actually tried vegetarianism just to see how it was.
Yeah.
Like to see if I could like physically do it. And I was like, I'm just going to do it for a week. That was all I wanted to do. I lasted 3 days. I went up to a friend's cottage and it was steaks. I was like, I'm done. Anyway, to the 5-minute challenge. So,
yes.
Basic idea with the 5-minute challenge is every week we alternate challenging each other to learn as much as we can about a topic in 5 minutes. And last week I challenged Keegan to learn as much as possible about the anti-cocaine vaccine. So, Keegan, what do you have?
I was so interested in this. So, basically, the anti-cocaine vaccine limits the rewarding effects of cocaine. It doesn't actually prevent the craving for it or anything like that. The way it works, it's called TACD, and it negates cocaine's effects. It's a combination of a compound called norcocaine and inactivated cholera toxin. Cholera toxin, you may remember, is responsible for cholera, which causes a lot of deaths from diarrhea and stuff. It's a very nasty toxin. But they inactivate it, and what that does is it's called an adjuvant, I believe, and it increases the body's response to a particular vaccine. They use this sort of thing very frequently. And this works like a standard vaccine. Antibodies are formed by your immune system against the cocaine molecule. For any immunologists out there, the antibodies are formed against cocaine antigens, and this prevents cocaine from crossing the blood-brain barrier. It just forms this big mass of antibodies that just can't cross. And that means that, the compound can't get to your brain, so it can't give you a high and can't release dopamine, which reinforces the reward pathways. So users still feel the desire for cocaine, and although I didn't find any research on this, I imagine that you could still like overdose on cocaine.
Yeah, you can. It is one of the risks that the lead investigator, Dr. Donald G. Crystal, said. It was a concern of his. It'll help mitigate the habitual cravings,
right?
But it won't actually alter the physical desires for the actual like addictive properties of it.
Yeah, and the concern, like with a lot of drugs, is if you don't get the high, you will take more of the drug, and then you can have like heart failure and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, for sure. So you aren't getting the effect, so you keep taking it.
Yeah.
This is a quote from Dr. Crystal. He says, "The vaccine eats up the cocaine in the blood like a little Pac-Man before it can reach the brain." And they did a study on non-human primates of a nondescript species. Basically, this is where they got all their usage data from. They have not yet tried it on humans, as far as I could find. The primary research was done in one of Nature's journals, Neuropsychopharmacology.
The only other thing I had was that I found that similar vaccines were in development at some point for nicotine, methamphetamine, and morphine. Morphine was a big one, but I think they stopped development because it became less of a recreational drug problem.
That makes
people
sense.
Don't really use morphine anymore.
Yeah. It's more like a heroin kind of situation. So, that's kind of cool.
Interesting, though.
Yeah. No, it's really a really great place to research, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So I now get to challenge you, right?
Yes.
So I am going to challenge you to learn as much as you can in 5 minutes about gravitational lensing.
Okay.
All right. And so we'll have that for next week. And now I get to do my quiz.
Awesome.
Yes. And I called this quiz The Flavors of Not Food. So there are many types of vegetarianism and diets and all that sort of thing, as we've discussed. So Let's see if you can identify them and pick out the Easter egg diets I just made up.
Okay, so I'm saying which ones are real, which ones are fake.
And I'm going to describe them, and you have to tell me the type if it's real.
Okay.
All right. So, number 1. What type includes eggs but not dairy products?
Oh, God. I know. Isn't it like an ovo-lacto vegetarian? If it's both, so it would be an ovo-vegetarian.
That's right.
Wow.
Very nice. Ovo-vegetarianism. All right. What type includes only fresh, uncooked fruit, nuts, seeds, and vegetables?
Fruitarianism.
Nope.
What? I thought I had that. What is it?
Raw veganism.
Raw vegan. Oh, because
it's all about raw foods.
Okay. All right. I'll give it to you.
Number 3. What type excludes the consumption of non-mature animals, i.e. veal, lamb, etc.?
Oh, I don't know. I'm going to say you made that one up just because I don't know anything about it.
I did make that up.
Ah, nice.
Very good. What type permits only fruit, nuts, seeds, and other plant matter that can be gathered without harming the plant?
Now that's a fruitarian.
Yes, it's actually fruitarianism.
Oh, well, I got it the next to tear.
Yeah.
But
number 5. What type is a plant-based diet including dairy and honey but excluding onions, leeks, red lentils, durians, mushrooms, blue cheese, fermented food, alcoholic drinks, coffee, tea, chocolate, nutmeg, and sharp spices?
What? Why would this diet be a thing? You must have made that up. That's stupid.
I did not make it up.
What?
It is the sattvic or yogic diet.
Okay. What is it? Is it like
it's like
it's
a Hindu thing.
Okay. A religious thing. That explains it. All right.
What diet includes dairy but excludes eggs, honey, and root vegetables?
Why would you get off root vegetables? Okay, the problem with root vegetables is they're you have to kill the plant to take them. I'm assuming that's the issue. So
I don't know.
Root vegetables. I don't know. I bet. So wait, can you say that one more time? What do they include and what do they exclude?
All right. They include dairy.
Yep.
But exclude eggs, honey, and root vegetables. And they also obviously exclude like meat and all that.
I think that's the Keegan made it up diet.
Nope.
Really? What is it?
That is called Jain vegetarianism, which again is religious Jainism.
But isn't Jainism... Oh, okay, I could see that. Actually, no, that makes sense. Jainism's like all about not hurting anything, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
So, I guess...
What type includes animal meats, but excludes animal products? So, like, you could eat a steak, but you couldn't eat dairy.
A paleo diet.
Nope, I made that one up.
But no, that's real. That's a thing, except it's more involved than that. All right, fair enough.
What type consists almost exclusively of whole grains and beans?
I don't know. The carb diet. No, let's see. Okay. I'm gonna say, again, I'm going with you made it up because I don't know the name.
I did not make it up. It's called the macrobiotic diet. And the last one, what type includes chicken and other poultry?
Just chicken?
Yeah.
Are you saying this is a vegetarian that eats chicken?
I'm saying yes. This is a vegetarian that eats chicken, but not like, beef or veal or whatever.
Okay. See, if you just said chicken, so I had no.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I only know ovo-lacto. I guess like a poultry vegetarian, we'll call it.
Sorry?
Poultritarian.
You're actually close. I'll give that to you.
Really?
It's pollotarianism.
Oh, well, not bad. Okay, cool.
All right, let me count this up. 1, 2, 3...
Kept track. Oh.
4. You got 4 out of 9 correct.
I'm failing grade. Fair enough. I did worse than you last week. That's a shame. All right. Well.
All right. So that's our show. Email comments and questions to mindthegaphosts@gmail.com. Our next show will be called Apocalypse When. Subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes, or the podcast feed of your choice, and also be sure to like or rate us depending on your platform. Thanks for listening.
All of it is considered Fruit Loop New Age gobbledygook. But is it possible? Why don't you tune yourself and find out?